Blazor is a front-end framework that helps you to build a front-end application using C#. So you can learn C# and then you'll be able to build a nice UI with Blazor or using Blazor. So welcome to this video. In today's video, we are going to learn how we can work with Blazor. So we are going to set up a Blazor application using a tool like MudBlazor, which is an UI component library for Blazor. We are going to connect our Blazor application to SQL Server as our database, and then we will create our services that will show in the UI, or that we can use the UI to interact with. So if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and then don't forget also hit the notification button so that anytime we drop a new video you may receive a notification. And don't forget to share this content with others, and thank you for supporting CliffTech. So let's get started. To get started, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you the component or the UI library that we are going to use. It's called MudBlazor, which is one of the most popular Blazor UI component that you can find on the internet, and it's very easy. If you search for the MudBlazor, you get it. And there are so many ways that you can work with it. It has a template in Visual Studio already. So if you are working on Visual Studio, there is a template in there that you can use. But if you are using something like Visual Studio Code, you have the CLI. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, you have the CLI that you can use to generate a template, and the template comes with all the configuration that you may need to use this UI component. So you can see here from the documentation that they are saying that you need to install this globally. So if you install this globally, then you'll be able to use the .NET CLI to generate some kind of a template or a boilerplate code that you can go ahead and then add all your functionality that you want in there. And then when you have this, depending on which Blazor application you want to create, in this video we are going to create a Blazor server application. So you can go and use the WebAssembly, you can use the auto, which is the combination between the server and then the WebAssembly. We have another video coming in where we will talk about the WebAssembly, but in this video we are focusing on the server. So if you want to do it in the server, this is how you do it. And there is also instruction on how you can use this in your existing application. If you have already created a Blazor application and if you want to add this MudBlazor in there, this is how you do it. But we are going to use the templates one so that we won't struggle with any configuration, because we know that that is what we want to use. So to do that, I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code. In this video we are using Visual Studio Code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my terminal right here, and I'm going to clear what I have right here. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to go ahead and say that .NET, because I've already installed the template, so I have it globally installed on my machine. So I'm going to say .NET new, and then we are going to have this MudBlazor coming in, and then you can see you can use the interactive server. So that is what we want to use, and make sure that you provide a name. So this line right here, I'm going to say that it needs to pick in the default name that I have. So it's going to generate everything for us. So now we have everything installed. So you see that it's telling us that the package, you can see the version of the package in here, and then to update the package we use this .NET. So an update for the template, I think there's a new version available. So yeah, so when you go in here, right here, you can see that we have our program.cs, which most Blazor application you have it, or .NET ESP.NET Core, you have this showing up right now. And then we have our solution in here, and then one thing is that we have our property, but we have our component. So the component and then inside the component we have pages. So in Blazor, it's like you working with React or Angular, which use the component based approach. So you have some functionality, or you have some services which you can put them as components, and then you can then use the component in where you want to render it, or where you want it to show, something like that. So in Blazor you can do the same. So you have pages, which so now we have a default counter showing up, and then if you see this is coming from the the template that we just installed. So it's giving us a better UI as you compare to the default Blazor template that we have, which is Bootstrap. So this is very nice. So we have this one in here, so you can also check from here, and then inside the pages you can see we also have error pages showing right here. So whenever there is an error, this page will then render for us. So the template has a lot of things in there, which is some kind of interesting. So we can also go back, and then it has a layout. So default, it has some kind of layout which has dark and light mode enabled. So whenever you are working on a project, you can switch into dark mode and light mode, which is one thing I really like, and it's nice. So that's one thing I love about this template. So we can run this application and see how the default interface look like. So I can list what I have in my default. So this is what I have. So we can do .NET run, and then it will run everything for us, and then you can open this in the browser and see how it look like. So let's go ahead and run it. So you can see that now our application is listening to this port. So we can go ahead and open this in the browser, and you can see we have hello world showing up right here. So this is very nice, and this is the default UI, or we can see that the default interface for the MudBlazor. We can go here, and default, it has some kind of a counter application showing there. So we can click, and then it has the weather forecast, which comes in the default Blazor application. So there is nothing new here. It's the same thing, showing all these things. So it's very nice. So we have the counter, we have the home page, is telling us hello world. So to get started, let's go and create our component, how we are going to build our project. So default, we have everything here. We can leave everything default. So we are going to create in some kind of models and components and everything. So in the components here, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it data. So inside the data, we create a model, and then we connect it to SQL Server, which we then perform migration and everything. So I have that. I'm going to also have what I call domain. So I create another folder, and this is a simple folder that I'm creating, folder structure. We are not using any rich architecture here. So we have this, and I'm going to create another one called service, which will be our services. So let's create another folder here, and I'm going to call it service. So something like this. So we have in this component, we have data, we have domain, and then we have service. So in the data, what I'm going to do is that we are going to put in our DB context in there, and then in the domain we're going to have our DTO, which is our construct, and then we are going to have our model in the also in the domain section. So let's go and create another class. So the class, we are going to name it employee here. So the class is going to be employee so let's say employee right here. And what we are going to do is that we want to clean everything in here, and we are going to give it, first of all, let's say a key. If you want, you can bring this attribute right here, and what we are going to say that we want the ID of it. So we want to the ID of all the employee to be some kind of GUI ID. So let's go and bring in our getters and setters right here. So let's say get Okay, so let's do this. Get right here, and then let's go and then say that set. So set coming in, so this is our ID, and then when we check, we need to also have something like the employee name. So we have a public let's make it a string, and then we say that employee name, so their name, and then let's go and do our getters and setters right here. So that is it. We'll go, and then you see when we run the application, there was also a gender. So let's say public string here, so string here, and then we're going to say that gender. So the gender of the person is also here. We are going to say that get right here, and then set. So this is basically also that. So this is the model. This is what we are going to use to create our database migration. And let's go ahead, and then last one, let's add our state, which is our our city, the city that the person is coming from. In application, you see we have city, so we go and see that this is also going to give us our getters and setters right coming here. So now there is two things that we need to also add. We're going to see that we want to see that public string here, and then what we are going to say is that created at no, let's do date. So date time, so date time coming in, and then we're going to say that created at, so the day that we created this, so created at, let's give our setters, and then see setters. So this is also our date time. So we are going to have the updated at also coming in. So let's say date time right here, and then say last updated updated at, let's make it at, and it's also going to have our get and setters coming in. So basically this is going to be the model that we want to use. So in our application, this is what we are going to use to basically talk to create our migration. So our migration is going to have these properties in there, and then it will seed into our database, and we are going to have nice things about it. So this is basically let's go and create the construct. So the construct basically is our DTOs. So construct. So inside the construct, what we are going to do is that we are going to create our DTOs, which is our data transfer object, how we want some data to structure. So first we gonna make sure that we delete everything, because we are going to create the different classes in here. So we're going to say public class, and we're going to say create. So we're going to say that create employee here. So if you want to create some kind of employee DTO, or we can say that construct. So create employee construct, and what is going to hold first of all is that it's going to have a public string of the employee name, because if we are creating an employee, we need the employee name. So we are going to say the employee name, which is coming in here, and then it's going to have our get and setters right coming in. And then the next thing that we want to do is that we want to go ahead and create our second property. So let's create, so we get the employee name. The second thing that we need is the agenda. So we say public string of gender. So gender coming in. Let's do the getter. Let's make it like this. So get and set, right? So something like this. You don't need to do this. Okay. So get and set it, and then the last thing that when we want to create employee we need is that we need the city. So public string of city. So the city is coming in, and then it's also going to have our getters right here, and then we have the set. So basically, if you are doing that, we can add some kind of annotations to this thing. We are going to make sure that let's see, this is going to be required, because when you are creating, we probably require this. Okay, so we are doing this data annotation coming in, where we are saying that all these properties are required, then it's required. So it helps us to add simple validation to what we are doing in here. Okay, so that is nice. So let's go ahead and create another one when we are updating employee here. So we're going to have public class updating. So update employee right here, employee construct. Let's give it a name of construct, and then it's also going to has some kind of public GUI ID. So we have public GUI ID here, and then we are going to have get, and then we see set, because we always update by ID. So let's add the ID. We're going to say that public here, we also want to update the employee name. So we can even copy this, because we already need the employee name right here. So copy this, and then when we come in here, we paste it. Okay, and then we also need the gender. So we need all of these things coming in. Okay, and then we can add the annotation to it. So make sure that all of these things are required, something like that. Okay, and then one thing that we want to do is that basically we want to have the updated at. So we're going to see that public datem right here, and then we see that updated at right here, and it's going to have our getters here, and then our setters coming in right now. So this is basically the property, the data we need when you want to update employee, right? So what we want to do is that we want to have employee DTO, which is going to be like the same thing as the model that we have, but this is what we're going to use in our service. So this one we are not using any mapping, we are not doing auto mapping, we are doing just manual mapping. So let's go and do that. Public class employee so let's say that employee construct, this is not create, this is employee construct, like that. And then we do something like this, and what we are going to do is that we can go into the model in here. So we have the employee here, we can go and copy this. So we can copy all of this because we need this to represent it in there. So let's go to the construct again, and in here let's paste this thing. So now in our DTO we have create, we have update, and then we have some kind of employee construct. So that is it. We have this, we are making it very simple here. So the next thing that we need to do is that we need to go in there and install some packages that will help us to do everything. So which is, first of all, we need to go and search for entity framework core, and then we use the SQL wrapper. So if you are using the .NET CLI, you can search this on NuGet, right? So let's search for Microsoft Entity Framework Core. So it will take us to NuGet. So in NuGet, we can then try to install this. So you can see this is how we install it with .NET CLI. So we are using .NET CLI right now. So we are going to do that. We are going to copy this command, and then we go here. Then we bring in our, let's go and create a new terminal right here, and we are going to paste this here. So we are going to install this, and this is it. So you can add a version to it, .NET CLI. So you can see that we have said .NET add package Microsoft Entity Framework Core, and then we have this inside. So when we hit, it's going to try to give us. Now we need another stuff. So let's go and clear this one up. Let's clear it properly, and then let's go back. So we also need Entity Framework Core. We are going to say .tools. So just like that, we have tools in there, two that we need. So this is also going to install the tools for us. And then the last one that we need is the SQL Server. So what you do is that you also go in here and try to add SQL. So make sure that we have SQL Server also added. So SQL Server, that is all we need to do. So you just copy one to Microsoft Entity Framework .tools .SQL Server or .design or something that you want to do. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to try to install all this package for us. And then we can then go and check these things from here in our CS Pro. Here we can go in here and see that we have installed the Entity Framework Core, which is this. We have the SQL Server, and then we have the tools also showing here. So this is very nice. So now we can go and create another class called AppDB contest, which is going to be our database. We are going to register this with SQL Server. So we are using Entity Framework, and then we are using SQL Server. So we need to find a way where both of them will talk to each other. So that is one thing we need to do. So after creating the database, we need to make sure that Entity Framework will create the migration and everything, but we want to also talk to SQL Server. So this thing that we have in here, we have installed Entity Framework, which comes with what we call DB contest. So you can see it's coming from Entity Framework. So when we get that, we're going to say that public right here, AppDB contest, right? So AppDB contest, and what we are going to say that is going to bring in DB. Let's go for DB contest option, right? So which is also coming from Entity. So DB contest option, and it's going to take in our AppDB contest. So our AppDB contest. So it's going to take in our AppDB contest, and let's go and do it like this. We put this to an options, and then we're going to see that our option base. So we've made sure that this is going to be base here, and then inside the base we provide our option. Okay, we provide an options, and then what we do is that we do it like this, and then we are going to insert our model here. So AppDB. So we're going to see that DB set. Okay, so we have our DB set. What we want to say that employee that we have coming from the employee model, and then the name that we want to do, give it is employees. This is going to be some kind of a database name, so let's do that, and let's give it get and set like that. So we have already done with our DB contest, and in our program.cs we are going to configure that so that it can then communicate to SQL Server. So one thing that you need is also connection string. So if you have been following my videos, you know how to do the connection string, where you come to this and then you are going to paste it in here. So it's very easy to do that. So I have my connection string configured and I'm going to bring it in here. So I have all my connection string. Mine will be different from yours. So I have this, and I'm going to say that app pro. So this is going to be the name, and I'm have in SQL Server. So if you have this configured, or if you set this is 10 up, we go to our program.cs, we'll be able to then configure stuff over there. So in our program.cs, let's go in there. Let's try to add our connection string. So what we are going to do is that I'm going to go top here, in here. What we're going to say that builder right here. So we have builder, see service, and then inside the service we say the add DB contest. So we have DB contest coming in. Then inside the DB contest, what we want to do is app DB contest. App DB contest is what we want to register here. And then when we have that, we see that options, right? Options here. And we want to do is that we want to do this. So inside this, we're going to say that options, we use SQL Server. So you remember we say that we installed the SQL Server when we were doing the SQL Server wrapper that coming from entity framework core. You can see it's coming from here, and then we're going to see that builder right here, configuration, get connection string. So we want to connect to what we have. And then inside the connection string, what we provide is that we provide SQL. So I have the name that I gave to this, which is this SQL connection. So I have this, which I can then go and bring. It means that this code here will connect to SQL Server, which is very nice. So I'm going to do like that. And then let's terminate this. And let's go back and terminate this well. So let's do it like this. Let's go down and do this. So now everything is added. We have connected our DB database contest to our SQL Server. So this connection will work. If you have the migration, it will be able to connect it and seed in with the migration and everything, so that when we make a request, so it means that we are making a progress. So let's move and create our service, and then with our service we can go ahead and create our UI component. So there is two things that we are going to do in here. We are going to go ahead into our service, and then we are going to create an interface that will hold all the method that we want to create. So let's go here, and then let's say we want to create an interface. We are going to call this iEmployee, right? So we just say iEmployee service, and that is what we want to do. iEmployee. So iEmployee service. So iEmployee service. So this is an interface. So we have this interface coming in. What we are going to do in here is that we clear everything, and the first one is that we're going to have interface that will help us to get our employees. So we're going to say task right here, and it has what it's taking is taking enumerable. So IEnumerable coming in, let's say IEnumerable. So IEnumerable coming in right here, and it's gonna take in the employee DTO, or we can say that employee construct, and we can see that this is it. And the name we want to get is that get employee. So get all employee sync. So get all employee sync, right? Async. So let's do that. So this will help us to get all the employee. Right, so this is kind of get all. Let's go and have another task. Let's create another interface. Here, this one is also when we want to get by ID. So it has employee construct, and what it does is that get employee. So get employee by ID. So get employee by ID async. So let's go and then also name this. So you can name it whatever you want. I'm just giving it a name here. So let's go and see. We have a task here, and then what we are going to do is that we're going to say that create. So this will help us to create employee. So create employee async right here, and then what it does is that this one gets employee by ID should accept GUI ID. We need to make sure we have an ID in, and then this one create. So we're gonna accept the create employee DTO, and we're gonna make it create employee or something like that. Okay, good. And then the next thing we need to do is we have the update. So we're going to say task, and they say update employee sync here, and then it's going to have update employee construct, and then we are giving it update employee, something like that. And then we have the last one, which is task, and then we are going to say delete delete employee here async. So let's add this one to it, and then it accepts GUI ID because the ID of the employee is going to be GUI. So basically this is our interface that we have in here. This defines the structure. This defines some kind of what we want to do in the service. So the service is, we are going to inject this to the service, and then the service is going to implement this interface. So let's go ahead, and then we can copy this because that is what we are going to create. Let's go to the service. Let's create another class, call it employee service. So this is basically employee service. What this is going to do is that it's going to implement, we are going to inject that interface. So we're going to say I employee interface, and what's happening here is that we are going to implement all the interface. So now you can see we have the interface here. Let's arrange it well. So when we create, we get all. So we can go ahead and then say that get all. Delete is supposed to be last, and there is no logic behind it, just my preference. So I can go ahead and then say that when we get all, we get by ID, and then we update. So we update this one too right here, and that is it. So this is it, and we are going to bring in our database, so which is one thing because we are talking to the database, so we need to also inject that one right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say private let's have a private. Let's go at the top. That is not where we're supposed to do it. We should do it here. So let's bring this one down small. Let's go top right here, and we're going to say that we're going to say no, let's do it. We should do it under this service, right? So let's go and bring the curly braces top. Okay, so now here is where we need to do it. So we say private read only, and then we are going to say that app db context so we give it a db context. We can, it's a preference, you can do it like this if you want, and then we are going to create some kind of a constructor. So we are going to create a constructor, so we can say public employee service. So employee service, and then what is going to happen is that it's going to take in app db context right here, and we are saying that app context, and then let's do it like that, and you see that this is called to this app context. So basically this is what we do, and then let's go in here and do this. So we have created, we have our database in the service, so that we can talk to the database if we want to create, if we want to update, or we want to delete. So the first one that we want to do is, I'm going to bring in get all at the top right here. So we want to get all employee, right? So basically we are not doing any mapping here, so let's make this async. So let's make this async. We are going to perform database operation, so this is going to be async. And what we are going to do in this service is that we are going to say return await, and then what we want to do is that we go into the database app here, and then we find in the database, which is this, and what we want to do is that we come down like that and say dot select. We want to select, and then we see that when we select, we want to have a data coming in like employee DTO, so, or employee construct. And then when we get that, what happened is that we have to make sure that we are doing this like this. So this is it. So when we get this, what happened is that we should go back and make sure that we do everything in this. So this is what we want to do. So when we select, then when we get this, we then have ID coming in, and then see that it's called to E right here, and then we should get an ID coming in. So we also have an error showing up. The error is saying that does not contain the definition of said no scalable accepting agreement. So let's do that one, everything, and let's check why we are getting. So let's say employee here is called to this. We need to get employee name showing up, and then we do this. So let's go and have gender coming in, and then we see that gender, so we want to get the gender coming in. So it's like we are mapping the DTO into the response that will come in from the database. So let's say we have city. So the spellings of gender, or how we spell gender, we made a mistake. So let's fix that. And let's go to the construct and make sure we fix that. And then let's go to the model right here, and also let's fix the gender spellings right here, and let's go to the service. So let's go to the service. Okay, so we can go to our service here, and then this is going to be gender, and then we have this coming in. We go down and see that city, so we now have city too. So we're going to say that city is also is called to E right here, and then say that we want to have city coming in, and then we have created at, which also is called to, then we must have this created at, right? And then the last one we have is last updated at, which also gonna go here. It's last updated at. So basically that is it. And then we then say that we want everything here to be to list. When we get everything should be to list sync right here, and that is it. So this is basically fetching everything from the database for us, and then we want to tell the database that give the response in this structure. So the construct is then giving us everything, right? So that is why it's data transfer object. Okay, so now we have something that help us to get everything. So let's go also get by ID. Let's implement get by ID. I'm just moving out at the top. I mean, you can implement it anywhere you want. So this gets all the employee from the database. So what if we want to get by ID? So if we want to get by ID, let's go and delete this. The first thing is that we find the employee by ID. So here, let's make this async so that we can perform a database operation, right? Okay, so we're going to say await here, and then we bring in our database, and in database we find this employee here, and we see that find by ID, which come from entity. We see that find by ID sync right here. So we have this coming in. So we want to find everything by ID. If it is no, if we do not have anything coming from the database for, so that if the employee here is called to no, if the employee is called to no, we just want to throw in exception. So we're going to say that throw new key not found, because it's not found, key not found exception, and then the message we want to provide in is that employee not found. So employee not found, and this is what we want to put it in. But if you find something from the database, just return this new employee construct, and like the one that we did, ID here, right? ID here is going to employee dot ID. So that is it. And then we have the employee name, which is called to employee. This one we are fetching it from the database. So if we find the ID, which the ID exists, the ID that we are trying to enter exists, we then see that find the information related to it, and then structure the information in this format for us, or structure the data in this format for us. So that is it. And then we go ahead and see that created at is something also we need, and then we are going to see that in the database we are seeing this. Okay, so employee, and then created at, and then updated at, last updated at, it's also going to the database like that, and then we see that last updated at. So this will help us to find everything, and this is the basic implementation. So we are not doing any complex validation or anything in here. This is basic implementation. So let's go and see how we can also create. So to create a new employee, what we're going to do is that we're going to say the var employee like that, and then we are going to say that it's called to new employee right here. So new employee, we are creating an instance of our model, and then we say that ID is called to GUI. So we see that the ID is called to GUI, and then the GUI has a new GUI. So whenever we create a new GUI ID, and then the employee name right here is called to create employee. It's employee name. So now we are using the construct that was the create employee construct. Whatever the user will enter there, we then add that one. So the name from our model is called to the what the user will create, will enter in here. So let's go and see that. Let's add this, and then we're going to see that gender. So the gender here is called to create employee here. Let's bring in the gender. Now create employee gender is not updated, so let's go here and check the experience right here, and then let's go down, and then in here update, because we do update too. Okay, so let's go back to the service, and now we need to get the gender like that. Let's go and say that city. So city created employee right here. We have the city, and then we see that created at. So now we need to have created at right here. It's called to create is create. It should be create employee dot created at. So created at here, we should have this coming in the DTO. The created at is something we basically going to instantiate. So we are not basically, we say that dot now. So let's do it like this. So daytime, whenever we create this, we instantiate this. So we say that the day that this was created, we pick that time, and then we make sure that updated at is also going to be like the same thing. So we say that updated is going to also go to daytime, right? So, and then also going to be now. So basically this is it, and it happens that way. We then go to the database. We need to make sure that we are saving something in there, and we're going to say add so database. We go into the here we should have employees here, and then what we want to do is that we want to add like that and say that employee here, and we say that await. We want to save the changes. So app say save the changes. So save the changes sync right here. So all the changes that was made, we save it into the database. So this will help us basically to create a new employee, and then we have updates, and then we go to delete. So now for us to update a new user, or we update employee, we first need to find by ID to check if the employee exists. So we're going to see the var. Let's go inside here, say var employee here. Let's make it small like that. Employee. What's happening is that the employee is called to, let's make this also async. And then what happened is that employee is called to await. We go to the database and then we see that here, we go and bring our database, and then what we are going to do is that we see that find by ID sync. This is it. So find by ID sync, and then what we are going to do is that this update user has an ID already. So you remember we added an ID. So the ID that is coming in here, we see the update update app. Let's see, update employee. Here we should get an ID, right? Okay, good. So find the ID that is coming in. So the ID that is being entered, basically because we are going to use Blazor, we are not going to do it like ASP.NET Core where you enter the ID. So this is it. And then if the employee coming in is null, so if it's called to null like that, what's happening is that we throw in an exception like what we did. So we're going to say throw new key not found exception, key not found exception here. And then we are going to say that employee, let's see, employee not found. So basically employee not found. Okay, so if employee not found, but when employee found here, we go in the employee name is called to what they use. We are going to enter. So it's go to update employee here, and then it's employee name. And then what happened is that we go ahead and do the rest. Gender here is called to update. So it's called to update employee here. You see gender. So basically we want to override whatever you are putting or what you choose to update. So if you want to update name, we want to make sure that we assign whatever you enter to the, to replace what we already have. So it's called to update DTO. So the DTO or the construct is basically what you are going to put in there. So city right here, and then we're going to say that employee here last time updated, right, is called to datetime, right, datetime.ut now. So when we updated, we want to assign the time to the updated, what you just did, so it will show updated at. So let's go and then delete this. So what happened is that we are going to also delete this. So when we want to delete, we are using the ID to delete. So we're going to say var employee here. So employee is called to await. So let's make this async. Okay, let's make async. So this is going to be await, and then app db context employees, right? And then we also want to find by ID, like ID sync. Let's say find by ID sync this, and then we want to put in the ID like that. So this is basically, and then we can do the same, that if the employee is called to null, if the employee is called to null, we want to throw in an exception. So throw in new key not found exception, and then what we're going to say that employee employee not found. So this is basically what we want to do. But when we find the employee, we go into our database, and what we are going to do is that employee here, and say we want to remove. So the ID that we find, we want to remove this from the database. When we are done, we want to save the changes. So we want to save in the changes. So save the changes async. So basically, this is helping us to create. So this is helping us to, this service is now helping us to create and then update, delete. So this is performing all the CRUD functionality, and then we are going to use the MudBlazor UI to then consume this so that we can have something showing in our page or showing in the UI. So let's go into our program.cs, and here let's try to register the services that we have created. So what we are going to do that under this one, we can go ahead and see that builder here, and then we see that service, and then we are going to say add db, right? So add we are going to say add scope, because we are not adding db context, we are adding scope. So what we are going to say that I employee service, right? I employee service coming in, and then we also map that one to the employee service. And what's happening is that it's going like this, and then it does this, and now we have added it. So now it's time for us to create our UI model. Let's get started with that. So now let's go ahead and create our pages. So the first one we are going to work with is that we are going to have what we call create employee, which is going to be our default something that we want to create. So create employee is going to be what we want to have is a component, and then we are going to have some kind of delete, also a component that come as a modal. We're going to have edit, and then we are going to have the employee itself. So first of all, let's create the employee model right here. So let's go to the pages. So now we are done with this data and domain and everything. Let's open the pages right here. So in the pages folder, we can go in there. We want to create in some kind of razor component. So we're going to do this. And then what's happening is that we want to exchange, rename this. We want to rename this right here to razor, right? Okay, so we want it to be like that, and then let's delete this. So when we delete that, we then have this, which is going to be served as the default thing. So let's go and create another razor component, which is this. So I'm going to create another one, which is going to be create employee. So let's rename this to razor right now. Okay, so this is the one we should delete instead. And let's go and rename this. So this is going to be razor. Okay, so this is create. Now we have the create. We need to bring in edit and delete. So don't worry about these things, we are going to work on that. Let's go and create another one. This razor component, they will delete. So now we need to bring in delete too. Okay, so this one we need to delete this one. The extension I'm using is creating some boilerplate for us, but we're gonna fix that. So let's make this also a razor component right here. So now we have create delete, and then we have the main component we are going to use, which is the employee component or page. So the next one we need is when we say we want to edit. So edit employee, we need to make sure that we have some kind of UI coming in, right? That drop down that is coming in right here. So let's go and say edit, and then what happened is that we're going to make sure we delete that, and then let's rename this right here to be Razor. Okay, good. So the first one is the create, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have some kind of, we can go into in here and then maybe find in some component that we can use, right? So we can have a lot of components is here if we want. So the create is going to be something like this. So these are components that is here that you can just come and then you copy the ones you want, and this ones, the codes are already there, so you just copy the ones that you want to use. So all the components you want, if you want form, so the create, you know, we need a form, and the forms are here, so you can use, so you can copy any of this. So what I'm going to do is that I've already copied the one that I want, so I'm going to bring that one in here for us so that we go ahead and then we write the logic ourselves. So the create basically is going to be less. So let's go in there. So this is basically simple. It has the mode dialog, which means that it's supposed to be a dialog coming in, right? And then we have the dialog content that we want to put in, and then we have the mode form, and the form, what it accepts is that you're going to accept employee name, employee gender, then model, the city. I'm going to create all of that, but for now we also have a button that will cancel it. So when we go to what we have in here, you see when we bring this one right here, we have this, we have employee name, we have gender, we have the city, and then we have something that say cancel or create, right? So these are the button that we have in here. So we need to make sure that we go ahead and install, use some kind of name spacing, because we are going to use the model. So we are going to say that using we're going to say that Blazor Cloud, the one, what is the namespace for this is that, what is the namespace? So we can go here. The namespace for this thing is that the domain is coming from this namespace, component.domain. Okay, so we want to go ahead at the top and make sure that we have some things in there. Okay, so we are not going to use any entity framework here for now. So what we are going to do down here is that we are going to write a logic. So to write a logic in, you say that code, and what we are going to do is that we're going to say we want to cascade in perimeter here. We say that I model instance, and you say that model, we give it some kind of mode, right? Mode dialog. So we have mode dialog, and what we do is that we're going to say that get here, and then we say set, and then we're going to say that go to default, right? So let's go and then make sure the set is also working here. Okay, good. So I'm going to say private mod form, right? let's instantiate this mode form right here. And what happened is that it's also going to is called to default. Let's give it this a name. So let's put it to something like form, and then it's called to default, right? Okay, good. And then we say private create employee construct, right? Construct coming in. So private create employee constructs coming from the domain. And this is not what we want. We need to put this at the top. So this should need to be at the top, having the using and everything. So that is one thing. So here we're going to say that this is going to be, we call it model. We call this model, and we're going to say that new. We instantiate this for now, and that is it. So this one that we are putting at the top in Blazor, we say that we need to make sure we have the art working, right? So we say art component, right? But that is not what we want to do. We go for the application itself, which is Blazor Blazor CRUD, right? And then in here, make sure we do it like that. Let's see. In here we should have this one coming in. So let's see if we can automatically import this coming in. So it's going to see that component domain create this. This is what we need. No. So let's go back. So what we need is this, using component domain. It's using as a global using, which is nice. So we have do that. So instead of doing import using the namespace, this is how we do it in Blazor. So we are basically bringing in create construct, which has the model that we want, right? So now we have that. Let's go and create a button. So when you check the form that we have in here, what we're basically doing is that we are creating it for this, right? And then the model, which is this create DTO, what we are doing is that we are then saying that this model, so inside the model we get gender, we get employee name. So in here we should get the employee name coming in here. So this is the employee name, and then you see that we have gotten that, right? So this gives us all the things. So now with the UI is looking good. What we need is that we need the cancel and submit button. So what we are going to do is that we are just going to go here, and then I'm going to create a private async, right? You see task. Here I'm going to say that this is going to be submit. So task submit. Let's call this submit, right? Submit, and then let's do it like that. So make sure that this is a task, right? So private async task, then we have submit. Inside that, here inside the submit, what we are going to do is that we are going to see that await, and then see that form, right? The form we have, we first of all validate. We have validation that we're trying to do, which some kind of validate coming from the the mode UI validate. Here, let's do it like this. Let's write it all, validate. And let's do it like that. So something like that. Await, let's see, it's await form. Await form validate. So this is basically helping us to submit. So if we check and then the validation in the form dot, it's not valid, we threw an error, right? We threw an error. So we probably going to see that try. We're going to use try catch. So we say try, and then inside the try, what happened in the try is that we're going to say that await here, and then we are going to bring in the employee service, right? We already have employee service, so which is what has everything that we need in there. So employee service, let's try to make sure that this is not await. Don't like that. Okay, let's make sure we add the employee service here. So we have the employee service. So inside the employee service, we have create. So await employee service. Make sure this is employee service, right? Let's make sure this is an employee service like this. Employee. Okay, let me spell it well. Employee service. Employee service. All right, and then let's use the service right here. So what is the name of this? This should be employee service. So when we go to the service, let's go and check. This is the employee service. This is what we need. So you see, I didn't make it nice. So the spellings was wrong. Let's check it well. Let's make the spellings good. Okay. So this is supposed to be the correct spellings. Let's go to the program.cs. Let's fix that one too. Okay. And now here we should have this working. So now employee service should work, right? So now we have employee service, and then inside the employee service should get some kind of create. Let's go and check. Okay, and let's make sure to bring this one in, the employee service component, employee service. So this is it. So await employee service, and then the employee service should be able to give us create employee. Let's check it well. Let's say that we are not using this global, use employee service. So here we are going to inject the employee service. The mistake I'm doing is that we need to inject it instead of using it, right? So this is a service coming in. We are not just importing something, we are injecting it. So we are going to inject, you see that inject, right? So we inject employee service. Employee service here, and then what we are going to do is that we are going to do employee service here. And then one thing is that we need to also do the using. So it's saying that let's do the using. Okay, so now we have the employee service coming in. Visual Studio Code is giving us. Let's delete that, and now we can get create, right? Service that is in. So now we get a create service, And then what we do is that we are going to pass in what we call the model, which is the form where we added to the create construct here. And then there is one thing that we need to bring in called snack bar right here, snack bar dot add, because when you are doing that, we want to basically also import the snack bar coming in right here. So we are going to inject that one too. So we say add inject. Let's go and inject that one too right here, and they see the I snack bar right here. It's now yeah, and then we see that we're going to give it the name of okay, good. So now we have it here. We want to add some kind of a message, right? We want to see that this is basically the toaster. So we see that add here, and then so when everything is successful, we want to show in some kind of a message. So we say that employee, we want to say that employee, right, created successfully. So employee created successfully, something like that. And then what we want to do is that we have this 70 right here. Let's go and check. So when we do that, you see we always have that kind of toaster coming in. So there's one thing too I want us to inject. We're going to inject I dialog, right? So let's go and inject this as I dialog right here, and then the name we want to give to this is our dialog service, right? Dialog service, let's give it a name like that. Dialog service, something like that. So we probably will use it. It's something we are using in here. So let's come in here, and then now, so we basically want to show in, so the toaster should be success, right? So it should be success. So let's make sure that when we add a toaster coming in, where we can call it snack bar or something like that, we probably want to see that 70 right here, and then in here we want to see that a success, something like that, so that the color that will come will be a successful color one. It's a mod, right? Dialog, which is the one that we did here, this right here. So we are going to see that this is going to be like this. Let's check the spellings and everything. Well, more dialog. So let's add this to it here, and then what happened is that we're going to close it, right? So everything, if when it's successful, we close it, right? We close it. So we're going to have the dialog results. So we have the dialog results coming in, because when we are done, we want to see that okay here, and then set everything to true. So when the message show up, so when we run application, you see that message, sometimes message show up here, and then we see that catch. So when there is an error, catch an exception. So this is a try, and this is catch. So we see that catch, And then the catch, basically trying to catch an exception. So when exception comes, when there is an error to come in, what you do is that we also show that one in the toaster. Say add, right? What we want to show is that we want to show error, right? We want to show you an error. So we say error creating, so error creating employee here. So error creating employee. And now we want to make sure that this is also an error, right? So this one was success, right? So we want to make sure that this is success, but this time around there is an error showing, so we want to make sure that this is an error, so we are not going to say the success. So we see that error, something like that. So now let's check the code. We have not created a cancel, so now we have created everything. This submit is working, which we already have it here. So when we hit create, we call this, and this will call create employee service sync, which already created. It is everything successful. We show you some kind of toaster, and then we close it. If an error, we show an error toaster. So one thing that we need to also do here is that we need to make sure that we have private, private async, and then we say task, and then we are going to say cancel. So I have a task of cancel. So we have cancel right here, and then what the cancel is going to do is that it's going to go to the mod dialog here, and then I'm going to bring in a cancel, right? So that is it. Then we do that. So it should be cancel, and the cancel is the one that we are using in here. So now we have created the add. Those will help us to add a new employee to our application. Let's go and then fast forward. Let's go and do the delete. So whenever we want to delete, so when you check what we have here, so now we have created this. So when you do the add, it show up like that. So when we want to edit, what happened is that it's also showing another modal dialog like this. So let's go and implement that. So we also have the UI for it. So I also choose in a simple UI, which I'm going to bring in here. And this UI is also the same one as the one that we used to do. And just to show in a message that also this is to delete. The one I showed was edit. So let's see, if you want to delete, you see we have this message, confirm, are you sure you want to delete, cancel or delete. So this also has another kind of a button like that. So let's go in here and then implement everything. So one thing that we want to inject is, first of all, we want to go and see that using let's make sure to have using, and then we see that MudBlazor, right? We want to have it in here. And then the next thing we want to do is that we want to inject, right? We want to inject in the I dialog. We already have it in create employee, so we can go and bring this to, so we can go and then bring it here. We put them in here. That is all we want. And then now let's go down like that. We want to write some code, so say code. And then this is what we want to do. The first one is that we want to also, what we did in the create, which is this one, we also want to bring in this dialog. So let's go and paste this one inside. So we can have this, okay? And then the next thing we want to do is also get the employee ID, right? So to do that, we're going to see that we have a perimeter here. Let's see, perimeter, right? And then inside the perimeter is public GUI ID of employee ID, right? So it's going to be employee ID, because if you want to delete, we should get employee ID, which is going to be get here and see set. So get and set is coming in. So employee ID. Okay, check the spellings of the employee here. There is a D. Okay, let's go down and see that we want to also have a message. So we have another perimeter coming in. Let's see param, and I see public string here, and then we want to show in a message. So a message, and then we're gonna have our get. So we have get here, and then we have our set also here. So basically this is it, and this one we are not calling the service to do that. Basically we will get when we get to the home page, right? Okay, so we're going to say private void. So private void of cancel. So we want to cancel. We want to have these buttons that will do the work for us, and then we have to bring in the mod dialog, right? And then we call in so this is some kind of a method right here. So let's see, and then in here we bring in the mod dialog right here. Let's see dialog, right, which we already have in here, and then in here we have the cancel, and then we put in like that, and then we see that we get this. We are going to do the same thing for submit. So we say private, so we have private here. So we have private void, so private void submit, and then we're going to see that this is also submit. So when you want to confirm that you want to delete this, okay, so more dialog, right? So the dialog is what we want, and then in here we're going to say close. So and then we see that dialog results, right? Okay, results should be okay. So when you delete, and then we set everything to true because we want to close. So you go like that, and that is it. Save this. So now this is also helping us to delete. So when you check this, the delete that comes in is what we want to get. So when you check this button right here, okay, good. Now let's go and have edit. So edit 2, I have the UI that we are going to use to do the edit. So it's also going to be the same one as the one that we just implement. So the first thing we need to do is trying to go to the create, and the one that we have already injected all these things, let's go to the edit, which is this. So let's delete everything that we have in the edit, and then make sure that we inject this one at the top because we are going to use it. So that one too, the UI is here. So the UI we have for this is this, and it's the same as the create, right? So this one is just we want to update. So when you check this one right here, it has also the same one like the create. So when you do the create, you get this. So when you do the update to, you get this. So this is nice. So it is the same one, but now let's write some code here to make sure that we have some functionality working in there. So let's do add code, and then make sure in there. Okay, so one thing that we need to do is that we need to make sure that we bring in the same thing that we have been using, or the ones that we have been having, which is the dialog. So this one right here. Then let's go to the edit and make sure that we have a perimeter of the dialog, because this is kind of a mode that will come in. So we say it's kind of a dialog, so we want it to be like that. And then we probably also want to have the employee DTO. So the employee construct, basically like that. Keep on saying DTO. So let's go ahead and gonna say that we have a perimeter here. So we say perimeter, and then we're gonna say public employee construct. This is one, should be, let's give it a name of employee right here, and then it's going to have this kind of get here, and then we have our status here showing. And then the title, we probably want to have some kind of title. Okay, let's say we have another perimeter here, and then what we're going to do is that public string here, and then we see that title. Let's give it a title, and then in here we're going to have get and set and all these things. Okay, so we just want to give it a title. So when you check here, we have a title of edit form, right? So that is what we want to do right now. We have edit form as a title of the model, so that is one thing we want to do. So we just want to go ahead and see that this is a title, and then it's going to have get and set. So get and set is right here, setting. So let's go, and then the whole form, let's use the mod form here, and then assign it as a form like that, like what we did in the create. So let's go and have private also update employee DTO, and then let's assign this to like a model like that, and then it's got to new, and then all this thing we are doing is already here. So this model, right, the form itself, which hold the mod form, and then we have this, which is also like our construct coming in. So that is one thing, and that is new. So we create an instance of it and say now new. So, and in here we can see we are getting an error, because now if I do this, we get all the properties that we have in the update. So this is now the model.update name. So we use the model to then say model.gender, model it's not model, it's model employee name, model.gender or something like that. So now that is what we have, and when it happens like that, we're going to create some kind of initialization, and then we override like what we have done in the service, right? So we say that override, and then this is void. So a void of on initialization, right? So on, it's not showing up, so let's write it on initialization. That is one thing that I hate about VS Code. And so on initialization here, we want to initialize, so it's giving us that, but when we hit, it's not coming. So let's write everything. So on initialize, let's make sure that this is small. So on initialize, right here, what we want to do is that we want to go ahead and see that the model that we have here, it has an ID. So the ID, we want to go to employee dot ID, right? So that is it. We probably also want to do model right here, and then we have a name. So the name too is called to what we want to create in here, which is the employee dot, and this is coming from the service, don't worry, right? And this is, let's go and see that in here we have a gender. So the gender too is called to, we have our small employee here. Let's make it like that, and then we see that this one's to gender, and then we have city. So city here is also going to go to this, and then you see that this is city. So on initialization, which initialize, so when you check this, method invoke when the component is ready to start, right? So when a component is ready to start, and have to, let's check it again, right? Initialize from 8 parents and render it 3. So if initialize, we want to override what we have in the database based on what we are trying to enter in here, you know. So we probably want to also have our cancel, and then we can see submit and cancel. So first of all, let's have our cancel. So the cancel, we can go to the create and make sure that it's the same. So the create is also the same. Okay, so the same cancel. So this is kind of a cancel, but we can do something right here, which means that we already have this dialog, which we are already using here to cancel this. So we can simplify this code, right? We can simplify this code right here. Let's make it better. So we can do something like this, and then we say this, and it's gonna work as that one, you know. So it has canceled the same one. So let's go and then trying to say private async task right here, the submit that we created, right? So it's going to be the same as the create. So let's go to the create and copy this. So let's copy this. Let's go and then copy this create, and then we are just going to do some kind of modification just with the service, but everything is the same. So we have this right here, but one thing is that we have to make sure that we have a model here. This is the model, this is form. So okay, one thing that we need to do is in here, we're going to see that update sync, which is coming from the service that we have. And then in here, we can see that we update this and see that updated successfully. So user updated successfully, or employee updated successfully. So updated like that, and then error doing this. So now we have created, when we check, we have create. So we have this kind of a modal or dialog that will show up when we want to create. We have the delete, we have the edit. So now let's with the ultimate one. Here is where we're going to show everything that we have been doing. So in this one is kind of simple. We're going to call in a lot of method in here. We're going to do a lot of things here. So all the modal that we have we have been created. We are going to call all of them in here for them to work. So it's kind of easy. So like the thing that we have been imported, we're gonna bring all of them in here. So first of all, the first task for us to do is to delete this, and then make sure we have this, because we are going to use the same as this. So but we need to also go into this and then copy this stock bar right here, and then let's go to the employee here. We already have it, right? So we already have everything that we want, and that is it. So I'm going to bring in the UI, which fetch in information or data from the get all. So let's do that. I already have the UI, so as we have been doing, I selected the default UI. So let's bring that and rewrite the logic to fit in all the thing that we have in here. So basically this is the UI component that I have, right? So there is nothing much, just like we have employee, which is the new employee. So when you do that, we call this open dialog. We are going to create that, and then we have this team member. So when you check the UI, you can see that this one, we check the total number of employee that we have in there, and then this is like employee additionally. So this is the button that we have in here. So you can see the team member check in the count, right? And that is it. And then we have this, so we check the name, and then we are going to change all of this, and then we have the gender and everything. So now let's create a logic to make sure that we are doing what we want. So first of all, we need to go and see that we have code, because we want to write a lot of code here for us to get a better UI interface or something like that. So first of all, what we're going to do is that we're going to have private, and then we are going to say list. So list, because we want to list everything, right? So it's taking in list right here, and then we are going to say that employee constructs, this is it, containing all the data that we have. And then we probably can make it like that, employee, and then you see that it's called to new, something like this. It seems like the UI is not happy on how we are doing things. We are getting a lot of bunch of errors, but don't worry, we are going to make everything work nicely. So that is one thing that I don't like about Visual Studio Code, but it's right. Let's go and still keep creating our services. So the next thing for us to do is we need to go ahead and also say private boolean. So it's loading. Okay, we set that one to true, because basically we load everything. And then the one thing that we need is that we might have search string, string like that, and then we're going to see that search string. So we're going to have this, okay, so something like that. Okay, so now we have this property coming in. The first one is that we need to go and have initialization. The initialization is it will load employee. So what we're going to create is that the first thing that we create is we loading, we getting all the data coming in. So we're going to see that private async right here, and we're going to say task. So we're going to have a task and say load. Let's give it a name of load employee. So we want to load all the employee coming in, right? Good. And it's going to have some kind of try catch. So let's see, we have try, and then inside try we set the loading. We see that loading, is to true, because even if default is true, it's a state. Okay, let's fix that. We say that state has changed, right? State has changed. We call that one too, because we are fetching in information. So let's go to the employee here. It's called to await. Now let's go to our service. It's employee service like that, and then inside that we should get our employee sync, and then we call this, then see to list. So we want it to be like that. Okay, so now we have that. If there is an error, we catch that. So why is that VS Code is giving us this kind of error? Okay, employee DTO could not be found. So there is an issue on some places called. Okay, so what I'm going to say that employee construct, this should be employee constructs, and error again is coming in. Open light dialog, we have not created that. So let's make sure that it's a construct, right? Not the DTO. Okay, so now it seems like we can get down here and create. So what happened is that the UI, I was saying that employee DTO, which is not what we did. We did it employee construct, right? So let's go down. When error happens, what happens is that we catch the error. So let's say when error exceptions, right? We want to capture an exception. So here is taking in an exception, and what happens is that when the exception comes in, we probably want to assign this to something like exception, right, to make it more nice. So when the exception come in, we have the bar, which is kind of a toaster. Then we say that add, we want to show you something when error happens. So we're going to see that fail, right? So fail. Okay, so fail to load, fail to load employee. So fail to load employee right here. And then we want to, you can, when we go to the create and edit, you see when it happens like that, when we show that, we probably show in some kind of successful, an error message. So this time around, we want to show in an error message. So we can copy this instead of us to go and write it again. We paste it in here, and then we go and say this. And the point is that this is not coming in because we need to make sure we do it like that, and then solve the case for us. So now when the error comes in, we show this and this error, and then in here we have finally, right? So finally we set the loading, and then the state has changed in. So we set the loading to true, to false, right? And what we're going to do is that we see that state, okay, state has changed. Call that one, right? Because we have already also changed the state. And that is it. So load. And then we're going to do initialization here when we initialize the application. So we say protected override async async. So if you don't hate Visual Studio Code when it comes to something like that, I really don't like it. So async, you see, the word async, it's not giving us a chance to type in our async. So let's copy this and make sure that it's async coming in here. Protected async tags. So this is basically when we run the application, the initialize sync will then call the load application to load the information maybe we have or something like that. So override async task. We need to call in the initialize. So let's call it before we even do that. We do the on initialize, right? We have, I think we created it on the update. So let's go to the update. And then we see that we already have it here. So let's bring it here. But this time around, what we do is that we add async to it. We add async to this. And then we see something like that. And then what happened is that await load load employee, which is something we have in here. That is what we call. So load employee, it should help us to basically load employee. Let's bring this one here, and seeing that employee has no override action, right? So there is an error coming in, seeing that async. Okay, we didn't spell it well, so Visual Studio Code has fixed for us is async. So now it means that we are making a progress, right? So now we have a method that will load all the information that we want for us, and so this will load the information for us. So then now that we need to do is that we need to make sure we have create dialog, edit like dialog, so all these things. So the next thing we do is that in here we go and see that edit dialog. So we're going to see that private async, we have tags coming in. Say open, we already have the method here which is part of the UI. So we see that open edit dialog, this is create dialog. We have open edit dialog, which we are going to create. That will open the modal we created, which is so open edit dialog. And what's happened is that it's going to have employee construct. It's going to have the employee construct like that. Oh, Visual Studio Code employee going like that, and then I'm going to name it employee or something like that. So this is what we have. So now in here we say var, first of all, a perimeter that we are going to create is going to go to new, because now we are creating an instance of dialog. So you see dialog, dialog perimeter. So let's make sure it's dialog perimeters here, and then inside that you can see we first of all want to have some kind of employee, right? And then it's called to employee right here. Then the next thing we want to have is the title, that we're going to say that the title, so the message is why we say that employee, the title is why we're going to say that here we're going to say we want title. So we want to have our title, the word is title. So title, which is called to, let's bring our $sign here. here, and then we see something like this. See the edit employee. So edit employee, and then what we're going to do is that here, say employee, we want to have employee dot name. Okay, so the one that you want to edit, and let's go in here, and then var, right, dialog, which we have to make sure that we have dialog. Let's create a variable, see dialog, and then it's going to go to await here, and you see we already have our dialog service, right? Dialog service coming in, and then we say they have show sync. So we want to show the dialog, we want to show in what you edit employee, right? That is the thing. Edit I think we have edit employee, this, right? So this is what we want to show, and we want to have this. Then we have some in, say edit, we want to have edit employee here. So let's write that, and then we see that it's a parameters, okay, and then we do this. So parameters, and then there is an error coming in. See that perimeter does not exist in this current contact. So why? It's showing that. So let's say that var, we will come and fix this down, resource. So let's create another variable here, and it's going to await, and see dialog, the dialog we created, which is dialog dot resource, right? Okay, so we have this also showing up, and then you see that if it's not cancelled, right, if the results that is coming in not cancelled, so which we are going to create the cancel coming in, but this should work. It should be cancelled, cancel like that. So if that results is not cancelled, what we do is that we're going to show you something, right? We then load the employee, say the await load employee right here, and then what we want to do is that we want to show in some message, and then we're going to see that employee did this successfully. So we say add, right? And then this is already even on the dialog, but just want to also add it here. So we say that employee updated, right? So we already have it in other services, so we can even go to another service and have it pasted here. So now the error we are getting from open edit dialog is that this parameter here is not, it does not exist. And because of what? So one thing too we need to do at the top of this is to make sure that this is the home page. So when we run the application, we want this to run. So this is a home page, right? Okay. So this is now giving us an error that this is not that. So perimeter, what about perimeter? Perimeter 2 works. So the perimeter works, not perimeters. Okay, that sounds great. So now we have this working. So now let's go and create the other modal or the dialog. So the reason why this one work as perimeter is that we did it here, right? So the dialog right here is perimeter. So we show this and then we show this dialog, right? Okay, so we can then make this one perimeters and then we show this perimeter. So the next step for us to create open delete, and then we do the open create, and that will be all. So the most important part is that these things are going to be some kind of the same, but we are just going to change in the name. So we can go and copy this. Let's go and then do the open delete. So let's copy this and make in simple modification. So first of all, let's go and check a method, say that open delete right here from the UI, and let's bring that one in here, and that is it. So one thing about open delete is that it's going to accept in a GUI ID of employee ID, right? So we remember when we're creating the delete, so this is going to be employee ID. We create our dialog. So in here we say that this is going to be employee ID, something like this, and then here let's do that employee ID, right, coming in, and that is it. So it's just a message that we want to show it up here. Remember, we have a message that are you sure you want to delete this? So we say that are you sure you want to delete? Are you sure you want to delete this employee? So let's do that, and it's kind of a question that we are asking. So this action are not be undone, right? So if you do that, that is it. So instead of here we show delete, we are going to show in confirm, right? Confirm. So confirm, delete confirm, right? It's the delete confirm. Okay, so delete confirmation, and then what we show in here is that confirm delete instead of edit. So we say that confirm okay, confirm delete. Okay, confirm delete. So that is it. So basically this is not, don't be confused, the first one is that here we open edit, right? Edit. So we open edit, and here we delete. Open, let's see that, open delete, open delete, something like that. So now we're gonna do, we already have load, we have edit. So we have edit, we have delete, and then so the next one we need is that we need creation, right? Okay, so results are with results, if that one. So let's go in there. One thing about the delete is that we are not done yet. If the results is not cancelled, the initial one was just load, but this one we are going to do some kind of try catch inside. where we probably want to call the service, and we have already called it in the delete confirmation. So let's see how it works, you know. So let's also do it here. And then we're going to see that await employee service. So basically it's also the same. So what we do is that is the same as the ones that we have been doing. So we can go and bring that one in here. Let's go and see that if results, okay, can cancel this, and then we have to make sure that we do this, right? And then load employees. Okay, let's add s to this so that it will be load employees, right? Okay, that is it. So this will load employees for us. Good. So now that is the delete. Now level it to one, which is the creation, which helps us to create. Open create dialog, which is the one we need right now, and then our application will be working. Things will be working for us. Okay, so now let's go and create that one. So for that, we create in a migration. The last one will be we creating a migration, and then we run the application. So okay, the last one we want to create from here is that we're going to say private async, right? And then we have this right now, and then inside this. So inside this, here we need to add a task. So let's go and add a task. Okay, so one thing that we need to do is that we have to make sure that it's the same as the one that we have been doing. So we just show in the dialog, so we can copy this once and then paste it here, just like that. And then what I can do is format this with C# so that we have some format. Okay, so now there's an error in the UI. Let's go and fix that, right? So we don't have anything like employee name. Employee name, let's make this once better, right? Okay, so we count this. Let's make this one better. Now there is an also error coming in that at employees. So now let it one error, then we can create a migration and an application will be working. So let's check the reason why we are getting an error, because our employee construct, there is an S, there is no X on it. So let's go and check. Now the error is gone. And don't worry, this is an UI where I put in all these things inside. And then in here, let's add X2. Okay, so it turns out that our application is running. So let's try, since we don't have anything coming in, let's do migration. So say .NET add let's .NET EF, let's add a migration. We call this initial migration. So let's do that and make sure that we don't have the application running, so that we run, we will see how it look like, right? Okay, so now we don't have the application running, we just have what we installed in NuGet. Let's open it. Let's go back. Build field. So there is a build field. Let's build, say .NET build. So there is an error somewhere. Okay, the command is wrong. Let's .NET build, right? Let's see what is happening. Okay, .NET build, and you see that error, which project solution, because the folder contain more and has more. Let's see why. We have more solutions. Why is that we have more solution, which is not true, right? What is happening? When we run the migration, we are getting an error. We run the application, is saying that the project has more solution, which is, we don't know why. The reason why, we don't know the reason why we are getting an error. The build is not working. So let's clear this. Maybe okay, so initially we're running it. Let's close this and run it .NET build again. Let's run .NET run. So okay, so this is running. Application is running on this port. And then we are getting an error that there is a default slash. So what has happened is that when you check for this home page, right, there is already home page here, so we can default put this, and then we make our this one default home page. So in the Blazor, when you do this, it means that you want this one to be a default page. So that is the home page, right? So we have to delete that one. Let's go rerun the application right here. Let's check the UI and see what we have. It's running. So it's running. Now you can see there is an error coming in because we have not put in anything. So now you see we have the UI because we have not done any migration. But when you use this MudBlazor, you might have an error. The reason is that I find this error to be kind of challenge. I don't know. When you go to this app, right? So when you don't want it to, you see here we have some error coming in, and it's because there is this coming in. This this one head outlet or something like the outlet, right, was showing here. This one. And it's because of that, because the routes already have interactive mode. So I don't know why. If we do this and then we go back, we run the application, we are not going to get that error. So let's see. It's running. Now, failed to load employee. So now when we do this, our modal comes, everything is showing. So it means that we are making a progress. Now our modal is showing, but we don't have any data coming in. So what we're going to do is that we're going to perform a migration. So let's stop the application because we don't want to perform a migration whilst we are running the application. So we can even delete this route, and then we see that we want to add a migration. So say .NET EF add initial migration. So let's do that. Build is start is added. So now we have a migration added. So we're going to say that .NET EF update the database. So this is going to pick our connection string as we did earlier on, and then update our database. I mean, don't mind the error. It's something else. Yeah. So now you see that everything is successful. It has come up with some kind of SQL command and everything. So now let's see .NET .NET run. So when I hit .NET run right now, it's going to run the application. So boom. Now let's go back to this. Let's go like that, and now you see it's not saying that failed to load because now the data is in by empty. Let's go and add our first name. So say Clifford. Let's add a name called Clifford, and then let me say that I'm a male here, and then the city here is going to be Ghana or something. Let's create. Boom, we are getting the modal that employee created successfully. So that is good. So this is coming from what we have in there. So when we want to do this, we are getting an error. Let's hit delete. Let's refresh. We are getting an error coming in because we cannot do anything. So let's see why. So we are getting an error, and the error we are getting is that when let's run the application again and see why we are getting that error. So let's say .NET run. So why are we getting that error? Because now if you want to go to update and this things is not working. So let's run the application here, and then here we are getting an error, but we can create. Now creating this tool is not working. So why? Let's check the console. Okay, so when we check the console, let's see, let me zoom in now. When you check the console, it means that some properties are missing right here, and then we can see that here we say that the edit page do not have title, so it's probably I didn't spell the title well. Let's go in there and check edit. Okay, so the title shouldn't be like this, it should be like this. Okay, good. So now let's run the application again, and let's do it like that. So what we're going to see that we see that .NET run, and then this is going to run the application again, and let's see this time around if we can perform all the functionality. Now let's see edit. Okay, and now let's see the name, I want it to be Isaiah. Let's update. Boom. Now let's refresh. The Isaiah didn't come, it's still Clifford. It shows that it's updated, but it's not updated. So let's see Clifford. Okay, there is an error. There is an error. Let's create another one. Isaiah. Okay, let's say female. City Goso. And then now we have Isaiah. Let's delete the first one. Now delete 2 is giving us an error. Let's check the console. It said that confirm it also doesn't have a title. So the spellings that I spelled the title is wrong. So it's also giving us an error that it also doesn't have the title. So let's go to delete. Here we don't have it here. Let's check the error. It's saying that delete confirmation does not have a title, right? But we pass in a title, so we need to check it all because we just copied, right? So we copied it because we copied everything. So it means that we have opened the dialog, we have added a title to it, which is this. So open edit dialog, open edit dialog, open edit dialog has a title. Open delete dialog doesn't have what we call title. Open edit is here. Open delete, it has a message, not title, right? So let's check the one. Okay, let's run the application again. So it's a .NET run. So it wasn't something like we providing title instead of message. So now the application is loading. Let me delete the first one. So now it comes. Okay, now it goes. Let's create a new one, last one. So last one, and then I want it to be for Ghana. We have created this. Let's do more. Okay, and now we have a lot of them, so let's do more others. Let's create. So when we do others too, it's giving us this instead. So okay, so basically this is it. I'll make sure the code is available on GitHub, so you can go and check it out and then trying to build your own CRUD functionality with Blazor. I think this video has been we have made it a lot longer, but it's good. You have learned a lot. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, and the code is available on GitHub. You can use it as a reference, can build any app, can build a lot of things and make it very nice. So this is how we build a CRUD functionality application with Blazor and MudBlazor UI, or it's a component library, UI library. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.